Santa Clarita unit code the response needed, 904 in Valencia. Male 27 overdose on narco, awakened breathing, bar and room check is 297. Santa Clarita unit code 3 and 3 or less.
There's a whole story here. It's like a movie where you can see where this all started. All started back in the 90s, and then you saw this where the drugs were promoted as now safe and effective. And then in the 90s to about 2010 or so, there was a push to prescribe these drugs. And this push was, some of it was pharmaceutical companies, let's be honest, there's money to be made. Some of it was just the culture in the United States where it became more of a, prescription drugs cure everything culture. Starting around 2000 or so, what you saw is a little bit of push away from drugs, but then you saw the massive increase in the illegal drugs, which then now you're seeing the final step, which is the massive increase in overdoses and deaths. The most typical source, I hate to say it, is usually the parents' medicine cabinet, or they steal it from somebody. They'll be over at Aunt Bertha's house. Okay, Aunt Bertha's 80 years old. She's had a couple surgeries. They gave, Aunt Bertha got, remember the usual amount in the old days was 100 Vicodins. That was the standard prescription after surgery, 100 Vicodins. Sometimes even 200. And Aunt Bertha might take 2 or 3 of them, 5 of them, even a week's worth. And then she leaves the rest are sitting in her medicine cabinet. And next time the kids over at Aunt Bertha's house, they just, maybe they pour some out or they grab the whole bottle. Aunt Bertha doesn't remember. And what they do is when they all get together, you have a bowl, you pour the medicines together, pour the different pills together, and then you kind of swing the bowl around and have people take 1 or 2 of them from each thing. By the way, it's not just opiates that are at risk. Benzodiazepines, where we're talking about lorazepam, i.e. Ativan, Xanax is very popular, Xanax, alprazolam, Valium, of course, diazepam. Those are also very high risk. And they're not as big as opiates, but they're about 1/7 of the problem. But we have a similar problem with benzodiazepines, and they would mix that all in the bowl together too. And by the way, there's a kicker to that. When you combine benzodiazepines and opiates together, you increase your risk of overdose between 1.3 to 1.7 fold. So you're already running a risk of overdose because they're just taking uncontrolled pills. You add, then if they combine with benzodiazepines, now we're talking about a real problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We almost lost you once already. You know that.
Yeah.
And you're strung out on the same drug that's killing people across our nation. You know that too.
Yeah.
And I'm with your mom. I'm here now, and I'm going to come get you. But I could speak for me, and I'm going to let her say something. But I surely don't want. I've been at the side of your bed when you were overdosed, and we almost lost you. And I surely don't want to go to your funeral.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come get you, but I really want to know you want this badly.
Yeah, I do.
That you want to live and change your life.
Yeah, I do.
When somebody reaches out for help, you got what I call a little window. And that window is right now. It's not tomorrow or the next day or even 3 hours. When you get that call, you got to move right then. And with Dorian, I knew that he's the kind of person that if we didn't jump, if we didn't go get him, who knows what would have happened. I didn't want to lose him.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be too hard to find.
All right, I'm going to be coming with Austin, Dave, and me, and that's it. Okay?
Okay.
So do me I'm not coming unless you tell your mom you love her. So she's right here. Just say, Mom, I love you, and I'll be happy.
Mom, I love you.
I love you too, Dorian.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
The sad thing about anything when it comes to substance abuse or drugs or anything like that is it affects everybody that loves you. Everybody around.
I'm scared for the world. This is tomorrow's leaders. These are tomorrow's people in control, in charge.
Can you imagine putting yourself in a parent's place where your kid's on the street? You don't know where they're at. You know they're shooting dope. It gets to a point where if you're sleeping at night and you hear a siren, you panic. If the phone rings, you think it's the police calling or even worse, the coroner calling saying, we had bad news for you. How would you have handled it if he didn't make it?
Wow.
'Cause we
I
almost-
would
we
be
almost-
absolutely devastated.
We
Absolutely.
almost lost him.
Yes, I agree. I would be devastated. I'm doing the best I can to take care of myself and my needs, but also I want to take a stand against this. I want to take a stand against this drug abuse and the profiteering of our children, on our children's exploiting them. That's what's happening here.
So you got this kid on the streets killing himself, shooting dope. You got a mom at home not knowing what to do. I mean, can you imagine the helpless, hopeless feeling a mother has when her child, or a father, when their child is on the streets, maybe dying? I mean, what a sad, lonely, scary place to be.
And that is why they turn to silence their feelings and silence their emotions by imbibing in substances. It's a sad thing for a mother to watch.
I know he's scared right now.
Total destruction.
If we have that addictive personality, like your story and like your son, once you find that one drug that you smoke or shoot or whatever it is that you do, and that feeling comes, you fall in love and you're really in trouble. So he's been in love with drugs for quite a long time now. Problem is the drugs now turned on him.
He's already had one overdose recently, and that is very scary.
And it's going to be a hard deal for him because he's got all these emotions going on. He's completely strung out. He's living on the streets. He's already overdosed. He's going to go through a detox. We'll get him meds, but still, it's going to be a rough job. It's going to be a rough spot for him to deal with. But if he does it right, and he does, and he listens, and he takes advantage of this, we can save his life. Pull it right to him. Yep. You could look at Dorian, and we knew as soon as we even pulled up, you could see it from a half a block away, just the way he walked, the way he carried himself, the backpack that he had. As we got closer, the face told the story. I mean, you could see where he was picking on himself and picking his skin and the scabs that were coming out. That's the drugs coming out, and also a little bit of paranoia, because when you're shooting dope and shooting speed at the same time, you pick your skin. You start picking things. So it was very obvious what was going on with Mr. Dorian. First, I know you're strung out. Yeah. And I know you need a detox. Right? What drugs are you using? When did you use last and all that stuff before we go?
Just heroin. I used it last probably this morning.
Okay. So you're okay right now. Until, would you shoot it or did you smoke it?
Shoot it.
Huh?
Shoot it.
Let me see where.
Right here. Right there.
Okay. How long has this run?
Just a couple of years.
Okay. Did you have any break at all?
I mean, I went to rehab a couple months ago.
Where?
In Acton.
Okay, and you left.
Yeah.
Did they throw you out or did you leave?
No, I graduated from there.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So you were there, what, 4 months or 5 months?
3 months.
What happened?
I got out and I didn't have anywhere to go, and, sleeping out on the street,
Yeah. That's not going to happen this time. I'm going to make sure of it. They're not working. Drugs cost money. So the way Dorian was supporting himself, he was stealing. He was going into stores, and a lot of these addicts do that. They go into the Walmarts or Rite Aids or wherever it is, they steal and then they return. They steal and they return. They steal and they sell because they have to support their habit. If they don't get the drugs, they're going to be sick.
Is that one of your fears that, one day you could end up being one of those people that's just dead?
Yeah, because I feel like I have something to do on this planet, something to accomplish.
What do you want to do? I mean, what do you want to do with your life?
I want to pursue my music. So, but I can't really do that when I'm, getting high or I'm behind bars. So this is probably the best thing for me right now.
Your choices are pretty slim right now. It's you get sober or eventually you end up dead or in prison. You know that.
Yeah. You were talking about it's $80 a gram. How do you end up paying for that? I mean, because I know it's a lot, and it adds up and adds up and adds up, and you want more and more and more. But how do you end up paying for it all?
I don't know, selling stuff, stealing stuff, all kinds of stuff that I'm not really proud of.
Because drugs make good people do bad things, and drugs turn good dreams into nightmares. But it's the drugs, it's not you.
Yeah.
In general, you're a good dude. But putting them drugs in your system, especially when you're strung out, you got to do things to get that dope, or you're going to be dope sick. If you're not working and you didn't win the lottery, where are you going to get the money? So these people, they have to commit crimes. They break into cars, they steal stuff from Walmart or Target to return it. I mean, whatever they need to do to get this money, they steal tools out of garages, they're going to do. They're not thinking about getting arrested, they're thinking about, I got to get well. Dorian was in a bad way. He needed to get well. He needed to get his drugs no matter what. Let's blame the drugs, not you. Can we do that?
Yeah.
And then maybe you can learn how to forgive yourself and get sober and be happy, and maybe your career will happen. You might be surprised as hell. So just remember that. It's the drugs, not you.
Squad 107, Quint 104 on voice confirmation overdose. Isabella Parkway, Aurora Lane.
Quint 104, show us
Quint 104.
The prescription opioid epidemic started with a very good, well-intention of treating those patients suffering from pain, but with a lack of resources to do it properly, and with an overconfidence that opioid use in patients with pain was safe, that they wouldn't become addicted. And then unfortunately, we realized that that is incorrect.
They noticed that prescriptions in the pharmacy were increasing a lot. There was longer wait times, more pills going out. So they got me these reams of data, and we sat in a conference room at our main offices at Walnut Center. And they started putting up this data showing what people were prescribing. And I was assuming I was going to see diabetic pills, hypertension, maybe some ibuprofen, the common stuff. But instead, what I saw was mass prescribing in massive amounts of opioids. Numbers per patient, higher doses than I ever thought were possible, just an unbelievable amount of opioids. Now, as we know, it wasn't just a Kaiser-Permanente effect, of course. This was a national effect that most people just hadn't quite figured out yet. But we had, because we had the integrated data where they were able to look at the pharmacy. They thought it was an electronic health record thing, i.e. a computer programming thing. So they brought in a physician who knew computer programming, and it turns out it had nothing to do with that at all. But once I was aware of it, I wanted to act on it. You can't, once you know something's going on, you've got to act.
Last night, shortly after midnight, 4 men broke open the door with a crowbar, broke open the gate with a crowbar, came in, jumped the wall, and took whatever medications or things that they thought they needed, evidently, and took off. You don't want to see it happen ever, and it's really sad that people feel that they have to go to that extent to try to get the drugs, I guess, that they feel that they need or that they can sell out on the streets. I mean, for us, we switched to doing more compounding and other things like that because we don't want to carry the drugs that these people are after. We don't want to give them a reason to come, so we pretty well stopped doing that for that reason. They're going to get caught. They need to stop.
What happened over the last couple of decades is that the number of prescriptions written for opioids really skyrocketed. And that, unfortunately, contributed to the opioid addiction problem that we have now in the country.
This can't be right, because at the time we were being taught opiates are completely safe, they're not addictive, you don't need to worry about drug dependency, nothing. Just go ahead and prescribe, there's no you don't need to worry about a maximum dose. And I Googled it, and I found this one physician in New Mexico who was basically saying the same thing. I looked at her talk, and I actually tracked the woman down and called her on the phone the next day. And I said, hey, I'm with Kaiser in Southern California, and I noticed this really interesting trend. We've been taught all this stuff. This was the teaching, but I'm seeing this massive prescribing. And the first words were, the lady says, thank God somebody else noticed. I've been telling people we're in the midst of a massive opiate crisis in the United States, but no one's paying attention to me.
We take you inside the battle against a deadly narcotic, a synthetic painkiller 100 times more powerful than morphine. As a street drug, it's far more potent than even the purest forms of heroin.
All you gotta do is add a little tiny bit of carfentanil and it boosts up the dose. But imagine this, if you're not careful, maybe remember carfentanil is so potent that literally the police officers have to wear gloves now, because if you touch it, it could kill you. If you accidentally double the dose of carfentanil, instead of this much, you put this much in, then you've got what's called a hot dose, and that gets out in the community, and people overdose and die. That's what's driving the current overdose things, where you're seeing all these reports. For example, in the East Coast, you'll see reports where like 20 people overdose in one night in a town. That's why. There was a recent case in California where it wasn't the heroin that was adulterated, it was actually fake Norco pills, where they were mostly inert ingredients, adulterated with a little tiny bit of fentanyl or carfentanil, and they had a whole bunch of overdoses, literally all on the same day. Because again, it's much harder to figure out, unless you're a really good chemist, it's really hard to get the doses right.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?